Today I'm joined by Ryan Forth, Segment Marketing Manager, also known as Marketing Director in the States, of Boston Imaging, a Samsung company. Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Jesse.
So tell me, where'd you come from and how'd you end up in this industry?
Yeah, it's been kind of a little bit of a long and winding pathway. I've always been in the healthcare side of the business, but my background is in actually computer engineering. And so I started off working in the field in hospitals on the systems from a technical perspective. But from there, I moved over to Germany and worked for 5 years at the headquarters for Siemens and did both, the engineering side of things, but then also transitioned into a marketing role, working with customers in Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and North America. And then after I came back to the US, I've taken various marketing and sales roles. So it's been a bit of a transition between two and real joy to learn.
Awesome. So your company owned by Samsung here, Boston Imaging. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you guys do and the story behind the Samsung side of it?
Absolutely. So we're the US presence for Samsung's healthcare division in the US. And we're responsible for the manufacture and the selling of X-ray products, ultrasound products, and mobile CAT scan products. The mobile CAT scan systems are actually manufactured here in the US and sold globally. And for all the other ones, they're manufactured in South Korea and brought into the US.
That's pretty cool. I'd know a fair bit about CAT scans as a South African. It's where they're from, where they were invented.
Right? Exactly.
So your role as a marketing director, where do you see it going? What would you say your 3-year plan is?
Well, it all depends on the industry or the company that you're with and the market presence. I've been with Samsung for about 6 months at this point and coming over from a very different marketing team with Siemens, where they were a very established firm worldwide that makes medical imaging devices. The team there was a lot bigger, a lot more resources. But then coming over to Samsung, this almost feels, because Samsung has only been in the imaging space for probably a little over 10 years at this point. And so, as big of a name as Samsung is, in certain aspects, it's still functioning as almost a startup, which is great because we have so much opportunity for growth that's there, and we are seeing a ton of growth. But from a marketing perspective, we're also growing and being flexible and creative on the materials that we're creating. So over the next 3 years, I mean, right now, we're at the point where it is, we're creating materials to support our sales teams. We're looking at what points they need to be able to communicate to customers on how to effectively position our systems and to position the benefits that they have for our customers. So this is much less of a 3-year plan because it's so dynamic right now, and more of all right, what are we accomplishing year 1, year 2, year 3? And then as the company grows and creates more of a market share, then I think we start looking to more longer term and strategic goals. But for right now, we're really looking just to go ahead and create the materials that the sales team need to best demonstrate what the systems do.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about what those materials actually are?
Sure. So in our world, it's not so easy to take these systems around and display them. It's not something you can stick in a car for the most part, maybe on the ultrasound side of things. But for what I'm responsible for on these X-ray systems, that are mounted and fixed into rooms, and for the CAT scan systems that, can weigh um, around, 3,000 kilograms. That's not so easy to load into a truck and wheel around. So what we've been focusing on is creating materials that best demonstrate how these systems function and what the benefits are, not only to the patients, but also, to the hospitals from a operational and financial perspective, and then to the people that are running the systems from a holistic safety perspective as well. So that starts off, I mean, you have, of course, brochures, flyers, things like that best demonstrate it, but we need to be a little bit more creative than that. And so we've been looking into various avenues, utilizing technology to go ahead and show that. One aspect would be creating something that's called a digital twin of the system. And we're working with a couple of different firms to help develop that. And basically, it takes the CAD or step drawings of the systems and it's able to port it into a virtual environment where the motors, the switches, the gears, everything like that function like it does in the real world. And so by doing that, we're allowing the customers to be able to go ahead and move the system, position patients, and see how the system would function and what the benefits are. So, trying to find the most effective ways that really help customers visualize what the benefits are and takes the variability of knowing like that a system that's robotic takes that scare factor out of it, because now when they're looking at it they see, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now the system moves in this direction. It's going to, increase our throughput. It's going to make it easier on the people that are operating the system, and it's going to make it more comfortable for the patients. So that's a big focus of where we've been putting our time, but it is a huge time involvement just for the simple fact that there's so much detail that comes into creating how the system moves and communicating that to the firms that are creating these things. So it's been a lot of fun, but also, I'm just glad that I'm tend toward the side where I'm more detail oriented, because it definitely needs it.
Oh, I can imagine as much. So I'm interested here. Uh, Designs and 3D renderings, I guess you could call them, that you're making. What do they actually look like in person? Like, how do you actually see them on a computer? Do you use like VR goggles? I'm interested.
There are a ton of different ways that you can do that. And it's all about the audience that you want to communicate to. Once you have one of these digital twins, you can view it in AR, you can view it in VR. A lot of cases, you can have like one display that has the control panel on one side, and then the other display that would have the visualization of the 3D environment where that system is, so that the customer can almost control the system and see it in real life. But it really is about understanding your environment that you're communicating this in and what's best, most conducive to it. VR has always been kind of an interesting thing, and as immersive as it is, in a trade show environment, it gets to be a little sketchy sometimes, just for the simple fact of it's cumbersome because you have to form an area around the VR headset, that's a safety zone. And then you also have to worry about sterilization of the equipment in between every customer use. And say you have, couple hundred customers that are wanting to try it, that can be a little overwhelming at times. So sometimes the best avenue to go on those is to look at what the most practical method is that still gets your point across. So for us, as we design these things, it's more on the lines of a control panel that's either touchscreen or something like that that simulates the controlling environment, and then a secondary screen where, like I was saying, you can visualize that 3D environment. There's a lot of other creative things that are going on right now. There's the LED fan blades, where it's a kind of a fan that spins with LEDs on it, and it creates a kind of a optical illusion of depth. So you can actually configure those sort of LED fans to be your display of the 3D environment. So as you control the system, it also makes it look in 3D. But that's one of the things that myself as a marketer, I have to constantly be doing research and looking at the latest trends and what technology is out there from a marketing perspective, so that I know what options there are to be able to go ahead and create materials that communicate these points to our customers.
So, speaking of these trends, what have you found recently?
Oh goodness. I mean, there's so many different creative pathways now. AI has opened up a lot as far as the creation of these materials and making them a lot more seamless. Not necessarily the creative side of things, but making the creative ideas practical. Ideas that you wanted to do before, whether it's, very in-depth 3D renderings or things like that, that would have taken a very long time, are now becoming much more doable, becoming much more affordable because of the integration of AI technology. So it's not necessarily that AI from our side is replacing the creative aspect of things, because you have to have people that understand the market, understand the technology, but they're utilizing it to create materials in a much more effective and a faster way. But then also out there, I mean, it's just looking at seeing, is the best way that you can communicate your materials through creating scale models? Is it through interactive media? Is it through simulators? In certain aspects, and depending on what your job field is, let's take, for example, let's say a heart catheter. where physicians are wanting to practice how they can go ahead and use that catheter and position it through the anatomy to get to the heart and then simulate that procedure. There's really great simulators that are out there that allow them to do that so that you can bring in your software or whatever you're doing to overlay on top and then simulate that kind of same look and feel as you're creating these things. So it's all about getting online, finding a couple of outlets, news sources, getting involved in various advertising groups, and trying to stay on top of the latest trends, because I think you always want to have a little bit of a wow factor for your customers. And so sometimes being the first one to implement new ideas is that little push over the top that gets everyone's attention. I think that from my perspective, if you're playing it safe all the time, you need to be willing to take some risks and make some failures too. I think any large firm would tell you that, because there's a certain element that like if you do a certain amount of just basic stuff that's been proven over time, it's going to succeed to a certain extent, but it's not going to make a big wow. So you want to base, it's almost like investing in the market. You want stocks and bonds that are, safe, that you can invest in, but you also may want to play in some riskier areas that are big risk, big reward, or big risk, big failure. So it's not about putting all your eggs into one basket and trying like, well, we're going to go big all the way. It's about diversification in marketing to, make sure that you're hitting and protecting your base communications, but then also looking beyond that and trying to find areas where you can really grow and make a big bang.
So, if you can tell me, of course, what are some more experimental marketing techniques or strategies that you're looking into?
So a lot of it goes around, I guess, focusing around your audience. That's always been one of the big things that big media, or not big media, but big data has been growing over time, is an understanding of who are you selling to and targeting that in. And that can go anywhere from, when you go to a trade show, sometimes now the badges that the attendees are wearing around have RFID chips that are in them, and that allows you to send out text messages to the people that are in attendance right then to make them aware that, hey, we've got a session that's going on right now, we know you're in the building, come join us. To other things where, like, for example, I believe Ryan Reynolds owns a marketing company that focuses on web streaming services that allows you to target customers through streaming apps for advertising and allow you to kind of nail it down to your target market. Because you can spend a lot of money and spam messages out to everyone, but if your target market is only, a small segment, you want to make sure that your messaging is going out there and hitting the target where it needs to.
So, messaging is obviously very important within any industry, right? What does your core messaging look like right now?
Our core messaging is really centered around a couple of different things. Number one, it's image quality for the radiologists that are viewing the images. That is first and foremost when you're looking at any type of medical imaging. If the physicians are not able to go ahead and target in on making a good diagnosis, then you've got nothing. So that's our first and primary concern, is making sure that our systems are meeting the setting the standard when it comes down to image quality. Secondarily is patient safety. So for any of the systems that are emitting radiation, we want to make sure that that radiation dose is as low as possible. So we want to communicate out what type of technology we're using or the trends that we're setting to lower that dose down to what is as low as reasonably allowable. And so that's a big part of our communication. Thirdly, the hospital staff is so overworked these days. There is a shortage of trained people that are out there. So we want to make sure that our systems are easy to use and that we're able to maximize the throughput for patients that are there, and make it easier for the technologists and the technicians that are using it. And so we communicate that as well. And then a big part too is around the financial aspect, because a lot of, whether you're in the US or you're international, depending on whether it's a social healthcare system or a private healthcare system, costs are continuing to go up. And so hospitals are looking for vendors that are willing to work with them on sharing risk, and also creating systems that help them maximize the use of their funds. So we want to go ahead and focus as well when we're talking to hospital directors, hospital CEOs, and VPs that, the purchase of this system will help keep you financially stable.
But at the end of the day, all of these core principles you've just mentioned come back and help the end user, the patient, when done correctly. When the doctors are less worked and not stressed, and the
Correct.
machines are easier to operate, the patient obviously thrives. Same thing with radiation usage, financials, all of this comes back to help the end user. And I think that's really important. And it's good to see a lot of companies taking that initiative these days.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there has been, I've been in the field for over 20 years now. And since the time that I started, the technology, the change in technology and the change in software development and the features that the systems can offer are so vastly different from what they used to be. And the options that are out there and available to hospitals and to radiologists for diagnosing patients has just exploded. So it's exciting to see that because it's offering so many more options for patients and for correct diagnosis. So it's an exciting time to be in medical imaging.
I couldn't agree with you more right there. Well, Ryan, I appreciated our time here today. Before we hop off, got a few last little questions I'd like to ask you. If you had a magic wand and this magic wand could fix any problem in your business, what would it be and why?
One magic wand to fix a single problem. That's an
You can say
interesting
two
one.
if you'd like.
um, I think for myself, what it would be an integration tool where you can centralize everything into one as far as your tasks on a daily basis, your sales numbers and tools, the the data that you're trying to pull information and make decisions off of. A centralization would be really nice because right now there are a lot of different tools out there that we're using, everything from monday.com to HubSpot to various vendors have their own platforms and things. And a lot of times to do your job well, it can be a bit challenging because it's so spaced out. I'm looking forward to in the future seeing these platforms grow and develop, and then hopefully being able to utilize ones that can streamline our processes a lot.
Yeah, integration would be amazing for everyone, right? You have one
Absolutely.
website which does everything for you.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. And then lastly, do you have one last pearl of wisdom for our listeners you'd like to leave them with?
Sure. From a marketing perspective, if you are a VP or a director level, protect your people. That's the number one thing that I can say is that nothing causes more disruption and loss of material than by losing good people. It's really can cause a hindrance when someone leaves and all of a sudden their files all disappear and you don't know where they went and all those kind of things, or just the history on what's been done. If you have good people that are out there, recognize them, work to develop them, and protect them at all costs.
Couldn't agree with you more at the end of the day. What is a business without its employees?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Hey,
I'm sure our listeners are going to love this episode.
really love it. Hey, thank you so much and hope we can talk again.